You know, listen, I can't explain how excited I was when they gave you the job, because the one thing I knew that you were old school. I knew you were old school. You were underneath the Jimmy Johnson, Dennis Erickson era where we won all those phenomenal games, those big games. And I knew, if nothing else, the temperament of the team was definitely going to change back to how we played it when we was there.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's when you go away, and I've been away for a long time, you go away dreaming of an opportunity one day, and but you kind of lose sight of it because you're gone so long, and then when it happens, it's like, whoa, you know. But while you're gone, you implement all the things of the great coaches and mentors and teachers that we had, and it ends up just showing up in the great lines that we end up having at Alabama in those years, and the great linemen that we had, and the high draft picks at Oregon the last couple of years. But now it's time to get back to Miami, you know, where I think we all feel the same way. When Miami's on, there's nothing like it. But it starts with the trenches, and I think a lot of times, you know, the guys like Leon Searcy don't receive enough credit for how drastically the trajectory of our run game, the ability to protect the passer, changed at Miami when the trenches looked like this on the offensive side, because we always had great defensive linemen. Always. But the O-line was coming in spurts, and Leon took that to another level. So, and that's what we set out to do right away, is really establish an identity and a mentality with the way we play the game up front. So, but it's easy to proclaim and hard to do. So it's all work, and we have a ways to go, but we certainly made some improvement.
Mario, you're from there. You played there. You get back to Coral Gables. You get back to South Florida. Was there anything that had changed that surprised you, or anything that was new that was exciting, or maybe you said, oh, we got to change that? What was the biggest initial impression when you got back?
Well, you know, sometimes change happens when things go well, and sometimes change happens when things need a change, you know, and this was one of those cases. So I don't judge. I don't believe in that. Football is crazy, right? The ball bounces funny sometimes, and sometimes things go well and don't go well due to injuries, philosophies, who knows. So I just don't judge, but I know that it's got to look a certain way, and it wasn't looking that way. And to do so, that we had to surround these guys with the right type of coaches, mentality, mentorship, mindset, approach, practice, regimen, standards. I mean, there was one sign on the wall, right? All it takes is all you've got. An understanding that Green Tree practice field is sacred ground, that for decades and decades and decades, the best players in all of college football and in the NFL laid it on the line out there, where games were much less difficult than those moments on Green Tree practice field. And getting everyone, every coach, every administrator, everybody, every person that's toting those water jugs or whatever it may be, that's setting up, everyone's got to understand that is sacred ground, and it's going to take everybody's entire existence to do what we need to do to get back to what we're used to doing.
Mar, because you're a beloved former player, former Cane, is it easier to sell what you sell, not only to players, but to the community, but to people to get involved and stay involved and help you build it back to what it was?
Well, this is in our blood, you know, like cut us open. This is what's there. It's always going to mean that much more. I mean, some people thought, well, he's going home. I'm not going home. I'm going where I wore this thing on the side of our helmets. We wore this. We lived and died for this, and we know what it looks like. And now combine that with the fact that the school has changed so much since we went to school.
Absolutely, yes.
I mean, this is like the Taj Mahal of universities and campuses, and the dorms themselves. The dorms all look like the lake and everything else.
I didn't know that, bro.
It's unbelievable.
I know 36 is gone.
36, the 4 bedrooms with 1 bathroom, that's gone. Everybody has their own bathroom now and everything. It's incredible. But then, everything else has, college football has changed as well. But the city of Miami, with that education, with, again, in the state of Florida, and particularly in South Florida, where you can attract, and you already have, the best talent in the country, that's a combination that some of us took a business course right along the way.
Right.
And what they always say was the number one most important thing when the starting of a business: location, location, location. Well, we have that, plus all the most recent investments that have gone into this, and just a swoon of enthusiasm and momentum. So it's just time to get to work. Let's put it all together. Let's enhance every single aspect of what we do and how we do it, and let's get after it.
Mario, the one thing I do remember about Miami, being on Green Tree Field, you're absolutely right, it is sacred. It's like a tabernacle, where you go there to worship, to be quite honest with you, because of all the guys that come through. But the intensity of practice, the intensity and the accountability for everybody on that field is the one thing that I remember so much about University of Miami, is that, first of all, if you weren't tough, you weren't going to survive. Okay, first of all, Jimmy Johnson made practicing and conditioning to a point where guys would literally leave in the middle of the night doing training camp because they couldn't deal with practice. Now, I know we're in a different era. We can't do that now, trust me. But they would. They were guys, Jimmy would make it so tough in practice and conditioning that guys who were on scholarship would leave and literally leave in the middle of the night because they didn't want to deal with it. When Jimmy called it weeding out the weak. He didn't want those type of guys on his team anyway. So he made it that way. And another thing was accountability. If guys weren't playing to a certain power in practice, in the locker room, we let you know. We let you know because we need you. We need you in September. So we're not going to let you slide in April. So, I know that you're building that kind of remnants and family where guys are held accountable for how they play, not in September, but also during spring ball.
Without a doubt, Miami spring ball means something. It's not a showcase. It's not working out. We train and we go to work, and it looks exactly like training camp looks. That's what spring practice looks. And for us, the model, you spoke about the model perfectly. It attracted a certain type of player, certain type of DNA. So what we did is we had the bulk of our prospects. We invited them to come to practice. We want you to see practice. We want you to see how we practice. We want you to see if you like this type of environment, because it's a high-level teaching, intense. The pace is really, really high. The physicality is really, really strong on every single session. And you either are attracted to that or you're not. Right. It's one or the other. And to go where we want to go, we got to have guys that are attracted to that. And then they could go and see the beautiful campus and everything else. But we didn't want them to have like a little staycation. We wanted them to actually see what we do and what it's going to be like, because look, there's 15 games a year max, right? And then there's 350 days. We want to show them the nuts and bolts of the other, those 350 days, what it looks like. And we felt like we made the right type of progress with the right type of guys, both on our roster and the ones that we're targeting and recruiting.
A couple more minutes with Mario Cristobal, brand new coach of the Miami Hurricanes, one of Leon's old line mates, bookend brothers, as he says. So you go back to the Saban, what you learned, and you go to Oregon as your post. What are one or two things that you mandatory had to bring back to Miami?
Well, the fourth quarter program, the off-season program, which we went through when we were there, those stations it's the ultimate test, of toughness, accountability, effort, physicality, pride, all those things that go with it. So that's number one. Number two is the approach to the psychological aspect of the game, making sure that our mindset program, which we teach with our strength coaches and with guest speakers and do a very proactive workshop, almost like a class, that we think a certain way, we walk a certain way, we talk a certain way so we can kick a certain way. You know what I mean? And it's not, not everybody, comes out of the womb super tough, ready to rock and roll. Not everybody leaves a high school program ready for it. You have to practice it, and then you have to teach it, and then you have to talk through it, and then teach it again and do it again. And it comes with technique. It comes with fundamentals. It comes with all the aspects that make great players great, right? A full commitment to it. So all those things were just in full force the entire spring, and it allowed for really, really good process. But those are things that, that were principles and values of when we had an opportunity to play at Miami, and those were principles and values that I saw under Coach Saban at Alabama. And those were principles and values that we took out there to Oregon, right, to a team that was 4-8 and ranked, very far down in recruiting. And then, heck, 3 drafts in a row with a top 10 pick and 2 of them in the trenches the last 2 years. The system and the blueprint work. You just have to have the right type of people brought into the program that are willing to work at it to make it successful.
So Mario, Leon always talks about not that he was embarrassed, but that he was offended by the last 2 decades at Miami. You, as from afar, as a former player, what did you think of the last 2 decades? Were you offended like that as well?
it just hurts. It's painful. It's painful because, even when I was at Alabama, you know what those guys want to talk about, those players? They want to talk about, coaches talk about the U, what we saw at 30 for 30. It's a really captivating era. It's different. And I guess it was kind of like this. It was like, man, if we could just all just come together. Because when Miami alum and team and community come together, oh my Lord, it is, oh man, it is different. And, when success wasn't coming and on a consistent basis, you saw the splintering and the fragmenting, and that was painful. And so when this thing came up, and it's hard to leave because, I was raising my family out there. When you go away, you kind of, you go away.
Yeah.
And, but all those feelings of, man, if we could, I know what playing beside this man is like. I know what that stadium is like when it's rocking. I know what that locker room looks like, because we all felt it and did it together. And now we have a chance to do it at an even higher level. It's just super, super powerful. I forgot the question. I just went on a tangent there.
That was beautiful.
That's a great answer.
That was absolutely beautiful. And we are wrapping up with Miami head football coach Mario Cristobal. Mario, can't thank you again enough for your time. And as we were walking around ACC meetings here in Amelia Island, second to best odds, according to Vegas, to win the ACC. Do you feel like there's a target on your back that most first-year coaches don't have when they enter a new conference, enter a new team?
I've never woken up a single day in my life feeling like a target and refuse to ever allow anyone in our organization to feel that way. You put the crosshairs on other people, and let me rephrase that. That doesn't sound on other targets. Okay, you stay the hunter. We were always the hunter. We never once ever felt like we have arrived, and we're never going to feel that way. Our goals are so high, they're borderline unreachable, and so that we keep reaching and striving. That target stuff, I'm never ever gonna fathom or digest something like that.
No, Mario, I want to see if you remember this. This is 1991, number 1 versus number 2, Florida State, Miami. We're getting crushed. The offensive line is getting crushed because of a certain protection. All right, we wanted to squeeze the protection. Our offensive line coach said, "No, stick to the protection." We're sitting on the bench. We're losing the game, and the offensive line collectively said, "The hell with that. We're going to squeeze this front and let the back chip on the outside so we can win this freaking game." And we did. Calvin Harris was our center. We were the 2 tackles, Rudy Barber and Claude Jones. We're losing to freaking Florida State 16-7. It's about 7 minutes to go. We go down, kick a field goal, 16-10. We drive down. We ultimately score the winning touchdown, 17. All because the offensive line, made a decision. The hell with the offensive line coach said, we're going to squeeze the protection, and we're going to block freaking Carruthers and Marvin Jones, who were walking up in the. We squeezed it.
Double A gap,
and we went down and we won the game, 17-6. You remember that, don't you?
Rudy Barber, Dr. Claude Jones,
yes,
Kelvin Harris,
yes,
absolutely.
Those were classics.
Squeeze the protection. That's right.
That's what we did. Now, I'm not sitting there. I'm not saying this story so you don't listen to your coach, but I'm just saying we were desperate times, desperate measures.
Yeah.
It was Florida State, number 1 Florida State. We had to win the game.
All right. So before we leave here today, if we had 225 on a bench, he's on one, you're on the other.
He wins.
He is. He's winning.
He's winning. No doubt.
Only because I'm heavier now. That's the only reason why.
He's using it as a dumbbell.
We appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Mario.
Thanks for having me,
for coming
guys.
on, brother.
Appreciate you. Great seeing you, brother.